Are there husbands who deceive their wives and get married? I was deceived by my ex-husband like a fraud and got married. Please listen to my story today. My name is Patricia, and I'm 38 years old. This is a story from when I was still a housewife, half a year after I got married. Until I got married, I worked full-time. I had enough income to live alone, and I was over 35 years old before I knew it, without spending the money I earned because I was too busy with work. Just when I thought I might be single forever, and that's life, I met a husband of the same age through an introduction from an acquaintance, and we hit it off. After 6 months of dating, we got married. My parents were very happy because they never thought I would get married. Neither my husband nor I wanted a wedding, so we just registered our marriage and reported it to our relatives. It may seem dull to those around us, but we were both satisfied. We met a partner to walk through life with, and that was enough. After getting married, I quit my job at my husband's request. My husband was the type who wanted his wife to focus on housework after getting married. It may have been because my husband was working hard, but he said, my parents were both working, so there was no one to greet me when I came home. So I want you to stay home as much as possible. However, I had one question. But are your parents okay with that? Would my working in-laws understand my decision to become a housewife? I wanted to support my husband as his wife, but I was worried because some people say that housewives are parasites. However, my in-laws were positive about my husband's opinion and warmly welcomed me, saying, it's great if you can support our son as a housewife. I was relieved by their kind smiles. At that time, I had no idea what they were thinking. After registering our marriage, I quit my job. I had no regrets about my job, which I had been doing for almost 15 years since graduating from college. I decided to live for my husband from now on. After getting married, my husband was told by his father, do you have any plans to build a house? What's up all of a sudden, Dad? Well, actually. It turned out that my father-in-law had inherited land from his deceased father. However, he had left it unused for a long time. He suggested that we build our house there. You won't have to pay for the land, and the loan won't be too difficult if it's just for the building. My husband nodded in agreement with his father's words. Come to think of it, it might be true. My husband said, a house. Well, I'm the head of the family now that I'm married. He was enthusiastic about his father's proposal. We decided to discuss it again as a couple when we got home. I am a housewife and currently have no income. My husband's salary is not high. It's just enough for the two of us to live on. If we don't have to pay for the land, we might be able to afford the loan. I've saved up a considerable amount of money from working for 15 years. I made a proposal. What if we put down a larger down payment? Wouldn't that be better than taking out a high loan? But my husband looked troubled. But where are we going to get that down payment from? I don't have any savings, and I can't rely on my parents that much. You don't have any savings? You've been working for over 15 years, right? Yes. But how am I supposed to save money on my salary? I sighed at my husband's audacity. Is he bad with money? I thought he was a sensible person before we got married. I realized I had to talk to him properly and pointed out the reality. Listen, let's think about our household finances a little. I'm not working right now. Even if we replace the rent with a housing loan, we'll have to pay taxes if we buy a house. Have you thought that far ahead? Yes, I have. You can manage that part well, can't you? You say that, but there's a limit to what I can do. You're so annoying. Didn't you become a housewife to support me? I was taken aback by my husband's words. It's true that it's important for a wife to manage household finances while tightening the belt. Of course, but building a house without any savings. When I expressed my concerns, my husband said, if you're going to say that, did you have any savings? I couldn't help but say, of course I did. At that moment, I saw a gleam in my husband's eyes. I realized I had been caught. What? You have money. What are you so worried about? It's true that I have almost $100,000 in savings. but I'm somehow hesitant to use it all for buying a house. I can understand if we both contribute to the down payment. But is it okay to rely on my money from the beginning? Anyway, let's take our time to think about the house. First, let's get an estimate and make sure the loan goes through and that it won't affect our lives. What are you talking about? If you have money, we should build it quickly. Don't you trust me? I couldn't help but keep my mouth shut when my husband told me that. I am now feeling distrustful of my husband. Even though we became a couple by trusting each other, am I doubting my husband? I realized that and felt a little embarrassed. I'm sorry. It's okay, if you understand. Anyway, leave the house to me and my father, okay? I could only nod in agreement. And the construction of the house proceeded without any of my input. The most surprising thing was the location of the house. It was right next to my parents-in-law's house. It was certainly an empty lot next to my parents-in-law's house. However, it turned out that it was land owned by my father-in-law. I couldn't hide my surprise at this unexpected situation. I should have told them from the beginning that I didn't want to live with my parents-in-law or in the same neighborhood. I should have checked the location carefully. But if I asked too much, my husband would always blame me, saying, "Are you still suspicious? Why did we get married?" I couldn't ask him properly. I'm sure my parents-in-law and my husband were deliberately silent. I was deceived, and the purpose was to let their son and his wife live near my parents' house. They did it well. I looked at the newly built beautiful house with mixed feelings. However, surprisingly, the story of using my savings as a down payment was gone. My husband said, "This house was built by me. It's natural for me to take out a loan in my name." He reported it to me proudly. There are many things I want to say, but I'm relieved that my husband has thought it through. It was a miscalculation that the house was next to my parents-in-law's house, but we have always had a good relationship and I think we can manage. That's what I thought. Hey, let's move. That's what my husband said a month after we started living in our new home. Move? What are you talking about? My parents will live in this house. What? What do you mean? With such a sudden statement, my mind was in a state of confusion. This house was built because my husband wanted it. So why are his parents going to live here? No matter how I look at it, this house is too big for just the two of us. Indeed, our house with 3 rooms is too big for 2 people. However, wasn't this layout designed with the idea of having 2 children in the future? Even my husband, when he saw our new house, said he wanted to spend time with a large group of people someday. My husband looked at my puzzled face and said, "What are you doing?" "My father and mother are coming." "Clean up." "Clean up? What do you mean?" "Take my grandma to the room on the 1st floor." Grandma refers to my husband's grandmother. His grandmother, who is nearly 90 years old, can no longer walk alone due to her poor health. While hiring a caregiver, my in-laws are taking care of her at their home. Wait a minute, does that mean your parents and her are coming to this house? That's right. Why did you decide that on your own? This is my house. Why do I need your permission to make decisions? Because we're married. I felt anger boiling up inside me. This is too much. How self-centered can he be? And besides, isn't it too wide for your parents to live, too? I repeated my husband's words. A house with 3 rooms is too big for his elderly grandmother and parents-in-law. That's true. Then let's live with 5 people. Why is that? I felt dizzy from my husband's incomprehensible words. Didn't you say it was too wide for you? If so, wouldn't you be satisfied with living as 5 people? I felt like I was being fooled by my husband again and I was exhausted. How many times will he fool me? Anyway, as the head of the household, I decided. You just have to say yes. And I'll ask you to take care of my grandma. You're a housewife, so it's only natural. My husband said that as if it were a done deal and went back to his parents' house. And now he appeared again with my in-laws. Patricia, you understand the situation. Please take care of my mother. It's a good thing you're a housewife. As my mother said, it was the right decision to quit your job. The three of them were getting excited. That's when I realized. I see. When we got married, they cleverly arranged for me to quit my job. I was made aware of their intentions and my anger reached its peak. That's what it was from the beginning, wasn't that? You quit your job, so you can take care of her, right? Your job from now on is to take care of her. Do it properly. I refuse. When I refused firmly, the three of them fell silent for a moment. You refuse? Who do you think you are? That's my line. You deceived me and now you're being too much. I glared at my husband. However, my husband smiled slyly and handed me something like a trump card. If you don't like it, let's get a divorce. He threw a completed divorce form at me. So, this is his answer. He thinks that since he succeeded in making me quit my job, I can't leave this house. Is it really going to be that easy? I picked up the divorce form lying on the floor and said, "Okay. Let's get a divorce." I filled it out immediately. All three of them were surprised that I agreed to the divorce. They looked dumbfounded. What? Patricia. See, I filled it out. This is the divorce agreement. I'll submit it to the city hall tomorrow. What? Wait a minute. Why are you so quick? I went upstairs with the divorce form in hand. Since I became a housewife, I had little money to spend freely, and my personal belongings had decreased significantly. Sometimes I sold my own belongings to make ends meet. I was afraid to touch my savings. But maybe it was because I had a bad feeling about my married life with my husband. In fact, my husband and my in-laws were trying to make me a slave to care for her. I hated myself for meeting such a nasty bunch of people. I packed my things and left the house immediately. The next day, I submitted the divorce form. I was officially divorced from him. After submitting it, I went to my former house to organize my belongings. He must have taken the day off from work because he was at home for some reason. Oh. Patricia. He seemed to want to say something, but I ignored him and continued cleaning up. It took less than 2 hours to finish organizing everything. If you have trouble living, contact me anytime. As I was about to return the key to the house and leave, he said that. What is he saying now? I have more leeway than you do. More importantly, please pay the loan and taxes properly from your salary. Well, it'll work out somehow. I no longer felt anything about optimistic his words. He must have thought that everything would work out so far. There was no planning, but the trap to ensnare me was carefully laid. I wanted to get away from this person as soon as possible. With that in mind, I left the house. And about 3 months later, when my new life had settled down, I received a phone call. Please help me. It was the voice of my ex-husband. Oops. I should have changed my phone number when we got divorced. Oh well. I suppressed my emotions and replied. Yes. Who is this? It's me. Listen to me. I'm really in trouble. I was a little interested in his panicked state, even though I didn't feel any sympathy. What on earth could have happened? We decided to meet up because it was difficult to talk on the phone, and I headed to the designated coffee shop. For some reason, my ex-parents-in-law were there too. So, what do you want to do? Please. Please lend me some money. My ex-husband begged for money. This wasn't supposed to happen. I was supposed to be able to pay off my loan, but it's not working out. He began to explain the situation. The monthly loan payment accounted for 40% of his salary. Even if he lived alone, he could still pay it off, but that wasn't the only problem. The company's management had deteriorated, and his salary had been greatly reduced. His parents had no savings, and they were on the verge of financial ruin. He came crying to me. He was really an unplanned person. His father spoke up for him instead of him being depressed. You have savings, don't you? If you hadn't divorced, you could have paid it off easily. Could you please pay for my son? Then it hit me. My ex-husband thought he could live off my savings even if the house loan was tight. Not only him, but also my ex-parents-in-law. How much can they make fun of me? I was convinced that I no longer needed to be considerate of them. I refuse. Who would trust people who deceived me and tried to live with me and even forced me to care for? I was deceived, so I should have claimed damages. But I didn't want to be with you for a moment. Besides, weren't you preparing the divorce papers over there? When I said that, they froze with a surprised look on their faces. Did they really think they could get money if they asked? I won't have anything to do with you. And I asked one question. Is your grandmother at home today? If my ex-parents-in-law are here, my ex-grandmother-in-law might be alone at home. Oh, well. Yes, but... Alone in this hot temperature? An 90-year-old elderly person alone? That's none of your business. Father-in-law answered with a sullen expression. If you know that care is needed and leave her alone, what happens if your grandmother gets a heat stroke? In some cases, it's a crime of abandonment resulting in death by a person responsible for protection. When I mentioned the name of the law, they were surprised and quickly left. If I get involved with them anymore, nothing good will come of it. I immediately set my phone to reject calls, so fortunately there were no further contacts. Since then, my ex-husband and ex-parents-in-law have continued to live in that house, but they are disliked by their neighbors for asking for money and are isolated. They are barely managing to pay their bills with my ex-husband's meager salary and his parents' and grandmother's pensions, but they are approaching their limit. I was informed by a neighbor that my ex-husband complained that his life had become difficult because his wife had left him. As for me, I returned to work after that. My bookkeeping qualification, which I had before I got married, came in handy, and I was able to get a job as an office worker at a certain company. I wasn't a full-time employee, but considering my age, it couldn't be helped. The salary was enough to live on my own, and I had enough savings. I'm glad I saved up properly before I got married. Patricia, you always do your job carefully, and it helps us a lot. When the manager says that, I feel honored. The human relationships at work were also good, and I was glad that I divorced and started a new life. That's what I think. By the way, are you thinking of getting married again? What's going on, manager? Actually, there's a good person. I braced myself by the unexpected matchmaking offer.